I was 24 when I followed a boyfriend and pursuit of an acting career to LA. I had never lived entirely on my own, had a fair amount of anxiety about what I was supposed to be doing out here, and had only one relative in town, my Uncle Arnold, whom I'd always been told was crazy. Don't get involved is all my mother told me about him. She warned me that he'd get me involved in some wacky scheme. Of course, since I loved doing nothing more than doing the opposite of what my mother advised, this just intrigued me and made me want to see what he was all about. My only contact with him as a child was on his occasional visits to New York on business when he'd sleep on our couch. I'd peek around the corner to spy on him before he disappeared for the day in his bow tie and cigar. We had no idea where he went, and I thought he was mysterious and fascinating. So, a couple of days after I arrived, I called him. I had barely unpacked and had no idea where to get groceries, let alone how to start a career in Hollywood, but he said he wanted to show me around, so I met him at his hotel. Arnold lived his entire adult life in the penthouse of the famed Ambassador Hotel. Really? I discovered, however, that the penthouse was really a converted boiler room on the roof, just big enough for a desk and a sleeper sofa. I found him cheerfully toasting a tortilla over the radiator. The toaster oven my mother bought him was stored in the bathtub. This was definitely odd, but charming in a Survivor sort of way, and I suggested we start our tour. His car, however, was filthy, with a brown cigar smoke film over all the windows and packed to the roof with papers, so I offered to drive. Of course, I had no idea where we were going, as he directed me onto various freeways with place names I had never heard of. He could spin a yarn, though. And as we drove, he regaled me with stories of old Hollywood, how he held court on the Ambassador putting green where he chatted up the rich and famous, how he helped Jack Kennedy climb down the fire escape during his presidential campaign, and how he was in the kitchen when Bobby Kennedy was shot. He had a bird's eye view of the celebrity scene at the glamorous Coconut Grove nightclub and at the hotel's coffee shop where he took most of his meals. I had stars in my eyes and totally ate up his stories of hobnobbing with Hollywood royalty while imagining my future glamorous life. But 3 hours later, I woke from my Hollywood reverie when I noticed that LA rooftops had given way to open desert. I knew LA was sprawling, but I only had a few hours for this excursion and still needed to find a cheap apartment and figure out where to get headshots printed. I started to hear the theme from Gilligan's Island playing in my head. Finally, we arrived in Barstow, halfway to Vegas. He wanted to show me a McDonald's in a converted train car. I mean, granted, my family was in the fast food business, but some people take their relatives to Disneyland. Then he wanted to visit the mayor of Barstow and cajoled me into tracking him down, first at City Hall and then at his home. I was pretty sure he didn't know the mayor all that well, and now I'm sweating bullets as we knock on his front door like creepy stalkers. Thankfully, the mayor was playing golf. So said his wife. Undaunted, Arnold figured we were so close we should just continue on to Vegas. It was becoming clear to me that my mother might have known what she was talking about. Not that I had any experience being the adult in the room, but I had no choice but to put my foot down. I insisted we turn around. I saw the disappointment on his face. But I was already disoriented enough and was not going to spend the night gambling with money I didn't have with my crazy uncle in Sin City. As uncomfortable as it was, I was suddenly the grown-up. I didn't see him for a while after that. Life was scary and complicated enough. Getting a job, breaking up with the boyfriend, setting up an apartment, trying to get an agent, trying to figure out how to play a game for which there didn't seem to be any rules, and trying to keep my sanity amid the chaos of it all. He sometimes called me 10 times a day to announce his latest brainstorm, or to tell me that he had a slogan for my acting career and printed 500 of my headshots emblazoned with my new nickname, Goldie. Or to confide that he had opened an account at every bank in town so that he could always have free parking wherever he went. I did not have time for someone who would probably have been diagnosed as manic depressive if modern psychiatry had ever had a go at him. But then, the Ambassador was getting ready to shut its doors. Arnold was full of crazy dreams and schemes, but I worried where he would go and what would happen to him. The Hollywood that he knew had ceased to exist, and when that grand hotel closed, nothing about his life would ever be the same. Where should he go after more than 40 years in the heart of Hollywood glamour? The modern world isn't very kind to aging dreamers, and there isn't often a nice converted boiler room available. Despite my trepidation, I felt like it was on me to make sure he found a place to live. I was just beginning my adult life, which was uncertain but full of promise, and there was something so poignant and sad about him being at such a crossroads so late in his. So, while my friends were joining theater companies, rehearsing for class, and meeting at bars to figure out how to get their work seen, I was finding and furnishing yet another apartment and teaching Life Skills 101 to a 75-year-old man who had never lived on his own. I took him to the supermarket, and he was completely overwhelmed by the choice and quantity. I had to convince him that it was okay to get more ice cream than he could eat at one time because he could put it in the freezer. I got him a frying pan and tried to teach him how to scramble an egg, but gave up when he melted the handle off. He could eat at Dupar's. One day, I found the bed made with the sheet on top of the blanket. He explained that he had been cold and thought that the blanket would keep him warmer next to his skin. He didn't know that there was a thermostat and that he could control it. It was like he was an alien, and I had to teach him how we Earthlings did things. He mostly got the hang of it eventually, and within months, his signature cigar residue coated everything, and there were only a few burn holes in the couch. Organizing his life was an incredible time suck, and none of this was helping move my life forward in the least. Yet I had to admit that it was remarkable watching Arnold weather all of these changes. This can't have been easy for him. He lived a solitary life. He knew he wasn't the marrying kind and had few real friendships. He certainly wasn't normal in any conventional sense, and few of his dreams were rewarded with any real-world success. But he never displayed anything other than unflappable optimism and determination. He donned his bow tie every day and did his business no matter what obstacles were thrown his way. And clearly he had been doing this for his whole life. He was a complete original who lived an independent life entirely on his own terms and without complaint. Maybe I could do the same. Thank you.